This is my first contract, basically. Um, it was, a 30-person 5-year contract. They ended up compressing it to a 3-year. So they burned $15 million in 3 years. Actually, they burned it in 2.5 years, and they recompeted it, and they made another award in 3 years. However, this is what I bid on, basically. Now, I bid on this, and I had, sorry about that, I had one past performance. And so I leveraged me, because I was my own employee, and I was supporting a contractor as a 1099, which I counted it as a subcontract because they look identical. I did that, and I was able to leverage that into, like I said, a $15 million prime contract award. And because I did exactly what the government wants you to do. For large small business set-asides, the government wants you to, they implore you to go out there and find large business partners to partner with you. Why? Because as a small business, you are considered inherently risky. They don't know if you're working out of your basement. They don't know whether or not you can make payroll. All those risks are valid. I'm living proof of that. Because I was working on my kitchen, and I didn't know whether or not I could make payroll, and I almost didn't. So I was literally down to 20 minutes to whether or not I was going to be able to make payroll one time. So all those fears that the government have, they're valid. I wish I could say that they weren't, but as a small business, you're living large. You really are. You're faking it till you make it, and sometimes faking it just doesn't cut it. So anyway, so if you're bidding on something large, they want you to go out there and find large companies, to partner with, because that defrays your risk. You're not staffing all these 30 people yourself. Your partners are helping you do it. That large partner, they don't want you to fail, because if you fail, then they lose their subcontract. So they're going to prop you up, and they're going to mentor you. And so the program really works, well. So that's what I did. I went out there. I only had one past performance that I used, for this thing, and I partnered with two companies. They helped me write the solution, because my very first prime contract was in an area I knew nothing about. It was supporting the Defense Logistics Agency. I'd never served a single day in my life in the logistics community. To this very day, I have a difficult time spelling logistics correctly. That's no joke. It was beyond me. So anyway, I just took a different slant, and we ended up winning it. So I was able to leverage my one-person subcontract that I had for 3 years that was only marginally related to the logistics community, and I leveraged that into a $15 million win. Now, how was I able to do that? Well, when you bid on a contract, there's really two things. There's always two proposals you got to write. One's a pricing proposal. You got to tell them what your price is, and that's separate. They want you to do that separately, because that's looked at by different people, and they don't want the people who are reviewing your technical solution to be swayed by your price. They don't want you to say like, oh, wow, this really isn't bad for the price, and then inflate your grade. Similar, they don't want you to say like, well, hey, for that price, you should be getting a hell of a lot more. They don't want, your price to sway the evaluation of your technical solution. That's independent. So you have a pricing proposal, and then you have a non-pricing proposal, which most people call a technical proposal. So there's usually some standard things that's always asked for in a technical proposal. There is a management section. There is a quality control plan. There is key personnel, because even though that they know that you won't be awarded this contract 3, 4, 5 months down the road, and that the people that you propose, almost certainly won't take the job. They want to know that the kind of people that needs to be in this position, and it also demonstrates your ability to recruit and to find good people in case somebody goes that they don't want to rebadge 100% of the incumbents. Let's just say they only want 80% of them. So now all of a sudden you got 20% that you got to go out there and replace because they just don't fit, or the government doesn't like them or what have you. So these are the standard things. Sometimes they'll even ask for a transition plan. They'll ask for a staffing plan, an organizational conflict of interest plan, and you want those additional things because every single additional plan that they provide dilutes your solution, the score, the weighting of the solution, and the past performances. So why is that important? Because as a startup, you don't have many past performances. Your solution, hey, chances are you're bidding on something that you may not be an expert in. So, so those are the areas that you can, they're going to be a little bit light. So you want to nail these, and there's ways to do that. This is just writing. This is just writing a good book report, and that's learnable. That is a learnable skill set, and there's ways that you can gain that. If you get ISO 9001, which is one of the easiest things in the world to get as a startup, it gets much, much, much harder as a larger company. But ISO 9001 to obtaining that as a startup is pretty easy. You're going to guarantee that you get a green in quality control plan. You're also going to almost assure that you're going to get a green in your management section because of reliability management, risk management, quality management, communications, customer satisfaction. All those things are directly relevant to the management. So then, so getting ISO will make these two green. Hustle.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah.
I'm looking at all this, and I'm put in mind of my experience as a junior officer on a ship writing a casualty report, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure we got, there are programs that do it for you now, but back then it was this massive kind of, it had to be perfectly formatted text message thing that was sent. You remember, I'm sure.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
you couldn't, if you screwed any insignificant piece of it up, the entire thing was garbage, and your department head would eat your head for lunch, right? So, I mean, the experience of getting a CAS rep right and actually sending it off without breaking the system sounds a lot like this, which in one sense is horrible news because who wants to write another CAS rep? But from the other perspective, I feel uniquely qualified to do this kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. And there's because they have a request for proposal, and the government tells you specifically what they want. That's in section C of the request for proposal. It's the statement of work. It's the performance work statement. It's what needs to be done. And then there's section L that tells you how, the instructions of what they want and how many pages and all this kind of stuff. Like they'll want to see your quality control plan. They'll want to see this. They'll want to see that, not to exceed 42 pages or whatever it is. So there's your instructions on how to write it. Your section C tells you what needs to go in your solution plan, but that's just one ball. It's just your solution. And then finally, they'll ask you for references, and those are called past performances. Now, these references, they'll either ask for 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Now, they reserve like the 6 and 7 ones, references for the multi-billion-dollar efforts. So usually, small businesses, they usually ask 3, 4, or 5, past performances. You will want to look for the ones that only ask for either 3 or 4, and I'll tell you why. The government expects a partner, if they do 15% of the work share, to write a past performance. So if you partner, let's say they ask for 3 past performances here, you can partner with this company, Lockheed Martin, this company, Northrop Grumman, or whoever. And if you give them 15% work share, the government expects them to write a past performance. So if you partner with 2 other companies and you give each one 15%, you can only show 1 past performance. You can only show 1 past performance. So it all comes down to this block right here, this ball. Everything else, you can fake it till you make it. You can write really good, really good content. There's little tricks. There's ways that you can plus up your score. There's corporate credentials that you can get to really max that out. And but at the end of the day, you can't fake a past performance. It's just like going for a job interview. And they say, well, what are your work references? And if you look at that person straight in the face and say, you know what, there's not a single damn person in the whole wide world that can vouch for me being a decent human being, you're not going to get the job. They're going to say, whoa, and it's the same way with this right here. If you can't provide any corporate references of you being a decent company, then you're not going to get the job. However, in this particular scenario, you can only provide 1 because you partner with 2 companies who are basically required to provide past performances. So now let me show you how this opportunity compares to this one. This is a 3-person contract proposal, not a 30-person one. So again, quality control plan, management, key personnel. Hey, like I said, as many of these things that they ask, I can show you a way to max out those scores. And, it's not that hard to do. Solution? Well, this is where you're going to take your first hit on a 3-person contract. Why? Because you can't partner with additional companies. Why? Because it's only 3 people. The government's going to laugh you out of the room if you need to partner with 2 companies to staff a 3-person, endeavor. So, now they're saying like, well, you can't even do a 3-person contract. Man, you must suck as a company. So, you write the solution 100% on your own, and you're not going to get the green because you're not getting any help. But it's the past performance that's going to shoot you in the foot. On the past performance, they require 3 past performances, but you only got 1 because you're a new company. You only got 1. That's all I had. I couldn't even bid on small contracts because I knew that I couldn't partner to get the other 2. So I was basically limited to doing this right here. Now, I made a lot of mistakes, but I was at least, and I'm not believe me, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, but I was at least smart enough to realize I am more competitive for the large ones because I can partner. I couldn't.
That is completely counterintuitive.
It is counterintuitive. So let's just see how bad it is. Here, if you think you can do a 3-person contract as a small business, so does 50 other of your closest friends. So everybody bids on these small business, set asides because they feel like they can do it. Like, oh, hey, I can do a 3-person. The government will take a risk on me. So they do that. You got a crappy solution, and basically you got a non-compliant past performance. And you know how much you're going to make off a 3-person contract over 5 years? At most, you'll make $150K profit. At most. Why? Because with 50 bidders, it's a battle it's a race to the basement. Who can be the dirt cheapest, person bidding? Because the government wants value, and if you could come in and do it for nothing, then they're going to give the award to the first competent bidder who can do it for nothing. And so you're not making any money here. Now, on a larger contract, 30-person, now all of a sudden, because these are hard to do. These suck. These are big. They require a lot of work. These require months of effort, especially if you have a day job. And I recommend that you keep your day job because entrepreneurship is a marathon. And you got to stay in the race long enough for luck to find you. And it may find you at mile 1, it may find you at mile 10, it may find you at mile 15, but it could be mile 26 before it finds you. You got to be in the race long enough. And so how do you run fast? How do you pace yourself as a small business, as an entrepreneur? You do it with money. If you get money, if you get investors, you're sprinting. If you're sinking and pumping your own money into your company and you don't have a source of income to live off of, you're sprinting. Success is better finding the first 2 or 3 miles. So I tell people to hell with that strategy. Keep your day job, just kill yourself. Just work crazy hours. So, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in about 5 seconds. So on my contract, there were 6 other bidders. 6 other bidders. So I had a 1 in 7 chance of becoming a multimillionaire. 1 in 7. And so 1 in 7 chance of becoming a multimillionaire, or I had a 1 in 50 chance of eking out 150K, where I was like insanely, not competitive. So think about that strategy.